My children chose their stepdad over me for job security after our divorce. Now, 8 years later, they want to reconnect because my business is booming. 8 years ago, I, 58, discovered that my wife, Lisa, 50, was cheating on me with one of her college friends. When I finally caught them, they'd been having an affair for nearly a year. When I found out, I immediately moved out of my house and filed for divorce. We were already having a rough time in our marriage because she didn't think I was making enough money as a high school baseball coach, and despite my best efforts, she kept complaining about everything. We fought frequently, and filing for divorce did not seem like a difficult decision to me at the time. Our 2 children had already moved out, so I had nothing to stay for. Unfortunately, that divorce cost me my relationship with my children as well, because for whatever reason, they chose to support their mother. Initially, they tried to persuade me to be gentle with her because she had been a stay-at-home mom for a long time. So they tried to tell me that she must have been bored with her monotonous life. In addition, after they had moved out, we began bickering over everything. Naturally, she was dissatisfied, and I was also experiencing financial difficulties. But I couldn't understand why my kids were trying so hard to persuade me to forgive Lisa, especially since I was experiencing the same problems she was. However, I had not gone out of my way to cheat on her. In fact, after every fight we had, I would try to make up to her and make her feel special in some way. Obviously, none of that mattered to her, and I was furious that my children were pressuring me to give her another chance. So I ended up fighting with them about it as well, and for a time they cut me out of their lives. After the divorce was finalized, I began to feel very lonely, especially since Lisa remarried the man with whom she had been having an affair only 2 months later. I wasn't speaking with my kids at the time, but when I tried to reach out to them, they did forgive me, but it was just something they said for the sake of it. I don't think they truly forgave me at the time, because they didn't invite me to any of their milestones for the next few years. In fact, I had little contact with my children until earlier this year, and the only reason they are trying to get along with me now is that I started my own business with a couple of my friends a few years ago, and it has recently taken off. So I'm doing well for myself, and I'm guessing that's why they're here. To provide context, I had been a high school sports coach for a long time, but I was severely underpaid and overworked. I had a buddy who worked at another school, and the 2 of us were having financial difficulties while trying to figure out some retirement plans. We decided to speak with a couple of other people and try to start our own facility. That way, we'd still be able to coach kids, which was something we were very good at and had a lot of experience with. However, we could turn it into a business and use it to fund our retirement. So we recruited another friend who was interested and knowledgeable about business, and we got started. To be honest, we didn't expect much from it at the time, but we are pleased to report that we are doing very well for ourselves right now, and I am proud of how far we have come. Our facility is quite popular, and we are thinking about expanding soon. I'm guessing my children heard about it because they contacted me earlier this year and began trying to get on my good side. I was initially relieved that they were trying to involve me more in their lives because I assumed they had finally come to their senses or something. I didn't suspect they had any ulterior motives, but the 2 of them paid me a visit a few days ago. My oldest, Ethan, and his sister Chloe, are now married. Ethan and Chloe married 5 and 3 years ago, respectively. I was not invited to either wedding because they informed me that their mother and husband would be present and it would be too awkward for everyone. I was very upset about it, but they said it couldn't be helped. The wedding would be too full, and they promised to make it up to me at some point, but they never did. But, like a fool, I kept waiting for them to realize one day that I was as much of a parent to them as their mother. I thought it was finally happening, but when they came to see me recently and started telling me how they had heard that my business was doing really well and that they wanted me to start spending more time with my grandchildren and also help them out financially, I realized what was going on. It was difficult for me not to be angry with them at the time, but I told them I would definitely consider it, and they seemed satisfied enough to leave. But after they left, I blocked them everywhere because I suspected they were trying to take my money. Ethan has 2 children. One of them is 7 years old, the youngest is 1 year old, and Chloe gave birth to her daughter 7 months ago. And guess what? I have not met any of my grandchildren yet. My first grandchild was born 7 years ago, and I still haven't met him. Of course it hurts, and I've tried to persuade Ethan to bring over his children or to invite me over so I could meet them. And when Chloe's daughter was born, I tried to meet her as well, but they always refused. Lisa and her husband would always make the same excuse, saying they didn't want things to become awkward. It hurt to have to understand and let go all the time. They finally want to give me a chance to play grandpa, and I'm guessing it's because their finances aren't going well. I had no idea about any of this before, which is why I didn't completely cut them out of my life. Just putting it out there, I'm not really in touch with most of the extended family, and I'm not into family gossip. But when my kids came to visit me after so many years and started trying to be nice to me, I realized something was very strange about the situation. So after they left, I blocked them, and just to satisfy my own curiosity, I decided to ask around about what my kids were doing. That is how I discovered that they had been experiencing financial difficulties for the past few years. Furthermore, their relationship with their stepfather was no longer all sunshine and rainbows. I found it shocking because from the photos they had been posting after their mother remarried, it appeared that the family was very close to the guy. But things appear to be turning sour because he intends to sell his company. They sell furniture, and after Lisa married him, my children began working in his company. I don't want to say it because I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that's why they were so eager to take their mother's side in the divorce. They thought that if they could get me to go easy on their mother instead of prolonging the divorce, it would guarantee them a job at their stepfather's company. Basically, Lisa's affair partner had bought them out, and I had no idea because I had never suspected anything like that would happen. Anyway, the problem right now is that the company hasn't done well in the last few years, and Lisa's husband wants to sell. But my children want him to keep the business. He owns the company, so he stands to benefit the most from the transaction, and he's fortunate enough to have found a buyer right now. But my children oppose the deal because, despite receiving a portion of the proceeds as shareholders and upper management employees, they will undoubtedly lose their jobs. They want to make a long-term plan for themselves. It's a big deal, and a lot of family members are aware of it because Lisa has a big mouth and has been venting to anyone who will listen. So it's no surprise that their family is fighting right now, which is probably why Ethan and Chloe came to me for help. It's no secret that we're doing well. We're running ads and such. And the word-of-mouth thing is also working well for us. So, after putting all of this together and speaking with a bunch of my relatives, I decided that I was going to block my kids and have no interest in their lives. They have had no interest in me for the past 9 years, and they are only here now because they are in trouble. It feels insulting, and I feel like an idiot for expecting them to come to their senses and apologize to me. However, a few days after I blocked them, they returned to my door and began demanding that I let them in. Even though I told them I didn't want to talk to them, I told them that I had heard from the family about what was going on with them and their stepfather, and I knew they were only here to get financial help from me. And that the reason they left me in the first place was because their stepfather could provide them with stable jobs and upper management positions that I couldn't. I called them sellouts. And in response, they accused me of being insensitive and resentful, despite the fact that they had no such intentions. They told me that they simply wanted to make things right with me because they realized that, at the end of the day, I was still their father, and they couldn't keep prioritizing Lisa over me. They also told me that the only reason they had asked for financial assistance was because of their children, not because I was doing well financially right now, and that it was disgusting that I had reached that conclusion after listening to a slew of bad gossip from the family. This happened 3 days ago, and I've been extremely upset about it all. It's so bad that I had to take time off work because I can't stop thinking about what I'm doing at the moment. I know that logically and rationally, the rest of the family is unlikely to lie to me. They would have nothing to gain from it, and that the rest of my family has always been nice to me, especially after my divorce. They've always looked out for me, and I appreciate it. So, I don't think they're lying or gossiping. They're simply telling me what I asked them about because I was the one who investigated the situation. That being said, I'm not sure if I should give my children the opportunity to work things out with me or just help them out financially. After all, I am doing well enough to support them, and I'm pretty sure they aren't looking for something long-term. They'll probably get a job after the company is sold, and they're probably just asking me to be a safety net for their children. I haven't asked them what kind of money they want, whether it's an investment, a loan, or just plain old goodwill. But in any case, I know that financial support is a part of this, and I don't want to pass up an opportunity to reconnect with my children and build a relationship with my grandchildren simply because of that. The way they discussed the situation when they visited the other day has thrown me off guard, and I'm not sure what to think anymore. I've just been constantly stressed, and I keep wondering if I'm making the biggest mistake of my life by excluding my children from my life. And maybe I'm being insensitive and resentful, as they said. If I let my ego get the best of me, I'm not sure I'll ever get another chance to work it out with my family. The only thing stopping me right now is my fear of being used, which I do not want. I really don't know what to think anymore. I feel lost. And I don't think I have anyone I can talk to about this openly. So, I'm here. And please understand that I'm just an old man trying to figure out life after being pretty much alone since my divorce. As much as I hate to admit it, I miss my children and want them in my life, but I'm not sure if this is the best way to go about it. So, I don't want to get financially involved with my children. Update 1. Thank you for your comments. I guess I needed a reality check because, in desperation, I had considered talking to my children. But I realize I'm being used, and I shouldn't be. Such a doormat for them. That's what I've been doing for years. They would speak to me as if they were doing me a favor, but they would always ignore me because they preferred Lisa and her husband. And now that I understand why they preferred him, I don't think there's any going back. I've even discussed it with my coworkers, and while they were aware of the history, they were shocked when I told them about the current situation and everything I had recently discovered. They stated that at first, they believed that my children had been manipulated by Lisa, which is why they did not want to communicate with me, but that there was still hope for reconciliation. But now that they knew they'd been bought out by their stepfather, there was no turning back. They told me to keep my kids blocked for my own self-respect and sanity, because if I didn't, they would undoubtedly burn a hole in my pocket. I'm still not sure what kind of money they wanted. Even if it was small, I don't feel obligated to them. Even if they were telling the truth the other day and asked for the money for their children rather than themselves, I still don't owe them anything. They have never brought my grandchildren over to see me, nor have they allowed me to visit them. So, why would I connect with anyone? I know it sounds insensitive, but it is true. I can't start feeling bad for kids I've never met and giving money to charity. So, if this makes me insensitive and resentful, so be it. I don't care, and I don't have to justify myself to them. I'm just going to stay far away from them and live my life. It will hurt. But I don't think it can hurt any more than it has in the last 9 years. And if I can put up with that without complaining, I believe I can handle the aftermath of cutting them off right now. At least this time it will be my decision, and I will have control of the situation rather than them treating me poorly. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. I really needed to get my feelings out somewhere. I will keep you updated on any developments in the situation, and thank you for your support. Update 2. Hello, it's been 3 weeks since my last update, and I promised that if there were any developments in the situation, I'd post here to keep you updated. So while I was at work yesterday, Ethan and Olivia showed up with my grandchildren and began demanding to see me. I was busy with a training session with a couple of students, and I normally don't take meetings at that time. Whoever wants to meet me must wait, but it appears that they refused to wait. I'm not sure why they expected special treatment, given that nobody knew they were my children. Even if they did, that did not qualify them for preferential treatment. Anyway, our receptionist informed me of the situation and stated that they were unwilling to wait. I was quite annoyed, so I asked security to accompany them to my office and make them wait there so they wouldn't cause a scene in the lobby. Then I took my time finishing the training session, and after making them wait for nearly 30 minutes, I returned to my office so they could meet me. It was petty, but they needed to learn that they couldn't just show up to my workplace and expect me to entertain them at any time of day. Anyway, when I returned to my office, it was clear that both Ethan and Olivia were very upset. My grandchildren also seemed bored and fussy. So, as soon as I walked into my office, they began lecturing me on the value of time and telling me that it was very rude of me not to speak to them and make them wait so long on purpose just for spite. Especially since I knew my grandkids were also present. Their entitlement irritated me, so I told them that I treated them the same way I would any other person who came to see me during a training session. Others could do the same if they could wait for me to finish my work before meeting with me. The fact that they expected special treatment from me simply because they were my children was ridiculous, especially given that I had never been treated well by them before, let alone receiving special treatment because I was their father. And it was entirely their fault that they chose to bring their children along. This was a training facility, and I was here for a very important job, so if they couldn't take the fact that I was treating them normally, they could leave. The only reason they waited was that they wanted to. I had not forced them. I had been very curt with them, and I could tell they were upset, but I suppose they needed the favor from me so they wouldn't make things worse for themselves. Instead, they quickly changed the subject, telling me that they had brought their children to meet me for the first time so that I could build a relationship with them and begin to feel like a grandfather for the first time in my life. It was very difficult for me, but I had to shoot that down. I told them I was going home because that was my last training session of the day, and now that I was finished, I just wanted to relax. Besides, I knew exactly what they were trying to accomplish. They were using their grandchildren to get on my good side, which was not going to work. I told them it was very spineless of them to try to use their children to gain access to me. It's simply unethical, and they began defending themselves, claiming that that was not what they were trying to accomplish. They had just brought their children along because they wanted to meet me. We ended up arguing because it was obvious that this was not genuine. They only wanted my money, which is why they were desperately trying to get me to give them another chance. I saw right through them, and no matter how much they insisted, I told them it was too little. Too late. I fell in love with my grandchildren right away. They are all adorable, and I wish we had met under different circumstances. However, this is something their parents are to blame for. Anyway, after the argument, they insisted that I at least listen to them and let them tell me about their plan, for which they needed my money. But I told them I was not interested. Even when they were arguing, they sounded frustrated, and when I told them I was not interested, Ethan lost his cool and began yelling at me. The kids began crying because he was being quite vicious. So I started trying to console the kids while they were arguing with me, and it was so infuriating that at one point, I told them that if they didn't want me to call security and have them thrown out of the building, they should do it themselves instead of forcing me to do it because I was sick of them. I meant business. They must have realized this, as they eventually left after telling me that I was completely heartless and that my ego would bring me down. But it didn't matter to me. I just wanted to go home and rest, so that is what I did. It's been 24 hours since then, and I still haven't unblocked them, and I don't plan on doing so, especially after what happened yesterday. I don't think I have to. I am done. Update 3. Hello, it's been 3 days since I last saw my children. I obviously haven't unblocked them, but they continue to try to contact me. Earlier today they sent me an email from a new address, apologizing for everything that happened recently. They explained that this was not how they had expected things to go, but they understood why I was upset with them. They were initially annoyed by my behavior, despite their efforts to make things right with me. However, after much thought, they realized that they deserved it. They also confirmed what I already knew. Everything I'd heard about them was true. And it wasn't just gossip. They were surprised when I accused them of choosing their stepfather over me solely for the financial security he could provide. They hadn't expected it and were slightly offended. But in the end, it was true, and they couldn't do much to change it. But now they realized that by looking out for themselves, they had become extremely selfish. And I deserved better. At this point, I had every right to shut them out. But all they asked was that I not do it to the kids. They also told me about their plan. They were actually going to ask me to invest in the business they were starting together. Obviously, they cannot prevent their stepfather from selling his company. It is entirely his decision as the primary owner. But they were now going solo and didn't want to jeopardize their own finances, so we were considering bringing on a couple of investors. Their first thought had to be me, as they were not getting along with their stepfather right now. After much deliberation, they realized that they had been selfish once again, attempting to entice me as an investor while never truly apologizing for everything they had done previously. So they sent me this email to apologize and tell me that if I wanted to meet my grandchildren, I could call them at any time and they would come. They didn't even want me to invest in their company anymore. It was entirely my decision. After reading that email, I wasn't sure what to do because it appeared to be genuine. But then again, I've been played for a fool before, and I don't want that to happen again. However, I do want to develop a relationship with my grandchildren, so I guess I'll have to think about it, and whatever I decide, I'll post it here after some time. For the time being, however, I simply want to take a break from everything, so I will not be posting as frequently for the next few days, if not weeks. Update 4. Hey, so I gave it a lot of thought, and now that it's been nearly 2 months since they last contacted me, I decided to try to build a relationship with my grandchildren at the very least. I know it will take a long time for me to reconnect with my children, but not with my grandchildren. I am already 58. I'm not getting any younger, and I don't want to waste any time or opportunities I have to spend with my family, no matter how limited. Furthermore, my grandchildren have grown significantly without knowing their biological and real grandfather. So a few days ago, I finally responded to my children via that email address, telling them that I would be delighted to welcome them, their spouses, and grandchildren for dinner at my house this weekend. But in the same email, I made it clear that I would not be investing in their company. If they expected me to assist them financially at any time, they could forget about it, and if that meant they wouldn't be willing to visit me, that was fine with me as well. I just wanted to make it very clear to them that I had boundaries and would not allow them to cross them. The tone of my email and the later part had been quite stern, so I hadn't expected them to respond the same day, but they did. They informed me that they did not expect or want me to invest in their business. They didn't deserve it, but they wanted me to be able to bond with my grandchildren. So they gladly accepted my dinner invitation. So they ended up coming over for dinner yesterday, And we had a good time. Their spouses are very nice people, and they all apologized to me for everything that had happened in the past, and they said they were looking forward to starting over. And I am too. I'd really like to start a family because it can be lonely, and I'll be retiring soon. So I suppose now is as good a time and opportunity as any to fix things. I'm overjoyed that my children finally decided to reach out to me and do the right thing. Hopefully things will improve for us in the future.